Okay. So let us start with this. We are already doing line by line. We are reading the NCERT book and we are trying to formulate questions based on this, isn't it? So here what we are talking about is anodizing. And we have discussed all these things. It's a very important process where we normally want some oxide layer to be present over the surface of the metal so that it becomes more stable. More thicker region will give you the strength also. So this aluminum oxide coat makes it resistant to further corrosion. So this coating, the aluminum oxide coating over the aluminum is a natural process. But during the natural process, the thickness will be very small. But we want more. Suppose we want to carry nitric acid, we want to carry some strength. Basically, whatever you are using in your home, all will be having some thicker coating layer of Al2O3, whatever aluminum utensils you're using at your home. So we want it to be more resistant to corrosion. Therefore, to enhance, to improve this, what we have to do, we have to make the oxide layer thicker. And this is done manually. Manually in the sense that is not natural. It is done by using the process anodizing. During anodizing, a clean aluminum article is made. Why a clean aluminum article? Because, why word clean is there? Because if Al2O3 is coated over it, then Al2O3 is the ionic compound, and ionic compounds are poor conductor. They are poor conductor. They are poor conductor when we say in solid state. That is why it's important that we first clean the surface and then we can use it as an electrode. Okay. So we will use the dilute sulfuric acid. Why dilute? Because we want water. Actually, we want water plus some sort of H plus. Why H plus is required? Because water is a poor conductor of electricity. Adding some H plus in it will make it conducting, and that conducting will give you oxygen. So conductivity is improved by using H2SO4, which is ionic compound. The oxygen gas is produced by oxidizing this thing. When you oxidize it, you get O2 gas. This O2 will be reacting with the aluminum sample, and that sample will be the oxide layer will be formed at the anode. Aluminum to make a thicker protective layer. This oxide layer can be dyed easily. So when you see aluminum utensils, it will be normally white in color. Or when you see aluminum panels, door panels, it will be colored. So this color, that is a dye. This is the color that is there because these oxides can be easily dyed to get aluminum articles of attractive finish. So whenever you will see something which is dyed, which is colored aluminum panels, then you will be noticing all this. Okay, you will be noticing all this aluminum panels while seeing some shopkeepers. They have very beautiful aluminum panels stacked over it. Okay, one over the other. Okay. This is all about anodizing. Very important question. What do you mean by anodizing? What is the need for anodizing process and how anodizing takes place? All this answer will be here. You should always write questions that I'm dictating, so that when the examination is nearby and you have all the questions line by line framed. Okay, any doubt, Pinaki?
No, sir.
Okay. Sanjay, any doubt? Angad?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Now the reaction mechanism is very less vigorous. So let us go ahead and try to talk about this paragraph, what we can observe from here, what we can frame question, what question can be observed here. So see, the most reactive of the samples taken, the reaction magnesium is less vigorous, implying it is not as reactive as sodium. Okay. And burning in oxygen does not help us to decide about the activity of zinc, iron, copper, and lead. So, what is important here? Number one, reactivity of sodium is more than magnesium. This is the number one point. Reactivity wise, by burning, if burning is the criteria, then these metals do not burn easily. So by burning, we cannot see, does not help us decide the amount of reactivity. We cannot decide the amount of reactivity. Of zinc, iron, copper, or lead. So question can be, can you decide the reactivity based on combustion or reacting of burning in oxygen of these metals? Answer is no.
Sir, can we decide?
Can you decide the reactivity order based on burning of the following metals? Can we decide the reactivity order of the following metals based on burning? Burning in oxygen, zinc, iron, copper, or lead? Okay. So this is not a very good reaction because they normally do not react with oxygen. So reactivity is again not very fast. So we cannot decide it as per the book. Now, so next activity 3.10. What happens when metal react with water? We have discussed, isn't it? Yeah, Dara, we have discussed this thing. Hot water, cold water. Yeah, there. So we have discussed that thing, that hot water, cold water condition will be there. Cold water here, which will react up to sodium. A, B, Ka, Na. This will react with cold water. Okay, did any metal will create fire, produce fire? Yes, sodium will produce fire. Okay, even potassium can produce fire. Rubidium can produce fire. Cesium can produce fire. But calcium will not produce fire. Barium will not produce fire. You can chew calcium tablets, isn't it? It is not going to create some fire over it. Okay. Does any metal start floating after some time? Answer is yeah. Calcium will first of all try to react. Okay. slowly and slowly it is going to react. When it starts reacting, it is getting dissolved. Its mass is going to be lesser and lesser. And finally, the mass decreases so much that because of buoyant force, it starts floating away. Okay, it will go up and down, go up and down.
So, but density तो उतना ही रहता है.
Because
तो
of
density
mixing action, gas, air, it will be there, na? Some hydrogen gas is evolved, isn't it? That will be creating some upset. See, whenever you can see that, okay, density is not going to change. But what about boards? Again, it is made up of metal. Density is not changing. It just floats over it because of the buoyant force. Similarly,
Yes,
you can see the discipline tablet, na? So many fizzing outs will be there so that it will start bouncing.
Yes, sir.
Possible, na?
Yes, sir.
So this is the thing. What happens? Which samples are they talking about? They are talking about. First of all, let us see what sample they're talking about. Okay. So here we are not talking about anything else. We are talking about zinc, iron, copper, and lead. Okay. Here we are talking about zinc, iron, copper, lead. Now, put some pieces of samples that bring a half filled water, cold water. Which metal reacted with cold water? Out of these, if we are talking about these four, then none. If we talk about sodium, it will react. So, to react the order between of these metals. Which metal they are talking about? First of all, let me understand. So they are talking about sodium. We are talking about activity 3.9. Must observe the sodium must be active.
So activity 3.9 के पहले जो chemical properties of metals के नीचे जो metals दिए थे, I think they're talking about those. So इसके ऊपर हाँ सर ये वाले
करेक्ट इसके बाद कर एल्यूमिनियम कॉपर दिस वन zinc and sodium. So among these which will start floating, magnesium reacts with cold water. No, so this is going to start floating. So we can say that sodium will catch fire. It will be bouncing up and down because of so many gases are produced. Okay, just write it: copper, aluminium, copper, iron. Okay, bakana magal. Okay, Na. So our metals are Na. Okay, bakana, magal, Zen. So done. SNPBH. ये the metals ना ना ठीक है. So अब हम लोग इसके ऊपर चलते हैं. Put some samples में which metal will react with cold water. So sodium is reacting with the cold water. Cold water से सिर्फ sodium ही react करेगा. None of the above reaction will give you the reaction. Okay. Magal aluminium will react with hot water. Does any metal produces sodium fire on water? Yeah, sodium. Does any metal start floating after some time? Put the metal that does not react. That we have to just take it out. Put some metals that does not react with cold water in beaker, half filled with hot water. Hot water. For this metal does not react with cold water, arrange the operator as shown and after the reaction with steam. So hot water से कौन react करेगा? Hot water से कौन react करेगा? Aluminium, magnesium, aluminium. So magnesium will react with hot water. Okay. So magnesium reacts with hot water to produce what? Magnesium hydroxide. Magnesium reacts with hot water to form magnesium hydroxide. But aluminium will not react with hot water. It will react with steam. It will react with steam. It will form Al2O3 plus hydrogen gas, Fe3O4 plus hydrogen gas, ZNO plus hydrogen gas. Which metal does not react with steam? Muggle, Zen, P, SN, PB. PB is not going to react. Copper is not going to react. All these will react. Copper and lead will not react. Arrange the metals and decreasing order of reactivity with water. So we will say that sodium, then Muggle, CB, okay. Any doubt?
No, sir.
So which metal will float? Only thing that can be sodium. We can light the sodium. Catches fire, but still okay. It will start bouncing. It will float. It is the only one which is going to react. And
सर
when
अगर लिस्ट में कैल्शियम होता तो दैट विल आल्सो फ्लोट राइट
calcium भी होना चाहिए तो that can also float.
Okay.
Normally sodium, I will confirm with the calcium later on. ठीक है, आप check भी कर लीजिएगा density wise. Density of sodium is less, so it will float. What about calcium? We have to check it out. ठीक है? Done.
ठीक है.
0. So this is a reaction, another setup. Again, same setup. We have discussed this thing, isn't it? Action of steam on a metal. So here, this is the metal strip. This is the soap water. So vapor is going to steam is going to form here. Or some reaction is going to take place. This is the core. So the gas is going to pass from here. H2 gas will be passing here. Passes here. This is the H2 gas. You will see the bubbles. So this is bubble which is having hydrogen gas. So hydrogen gas is produced here. Any doubt here? So metal react with water to produce metal oxide and hydrogen gas. Metal oxide that are soluble in water dissolve in it further form metal hydroxide. But all metals do not react with water. This we have already seen. Okay, so here this is the we have discussed in our first chapter discussion. Metal plus steam will give you what? And most important thing was the reaction. Fe giving Fe3 or 4, aluminium giving Al2 or 3. So this thing is important. You can see this. This is the given here. So potassium, sodium, calcium, aluminium, and iron. And see here, Fe3 or 4. So these are very important reactions. Very important reactions for board examination. Again, magnesium do not react with cold water. So question will be, what do you observe? What do you observe when first magnesium is dropped in cold water? Answer is no reaction. Nothing happens. It reacts with hot water form magnesium hydroxide.
Sir, what is dropped in cold water?
Magnesium, Mg. Mg dropped in hot water. What is the product? Mg over whole twice. So hot water, boiling water, only magnesium is going to react. NaOH whole twice plus H2 gas.
So magnesium when dropped in cold water, there will be no reaction.
And it starts floating due to the bubbles of hydrogen gas sticking on surface. So magnesium is the one which start floating. Even sodium will start float, but it catches fire. But in above example, magnesium was not there. See, isn't it? Was magnesium there? Oh, it was there. It was there. So we'll write magnesium. So our answer was magnesium. The sodium will also float, but catches fire. So we're not able to say it. But
So I checked it online. Even sodium will float.
sodium will catch fire.
Yes.
So
Okay.
we will not be able to see it. But here we can see this thing. And the NCERT is giving you the clue also. It's giving you the answer. So magnesium floats. That is important. It starts floating. Very important point. Lead, copper, silver, gold do not react with water at all. Again, important, interesting point. This is a fact you've discussed. समझ में आ रहा है? Getting a point. So just it's an important point. Again, see this thing. Calcium starts floating because the bubbles of hydrogen gas form stick to the surface of the metal. Both calcium is going to float, but it will start floating. Calcium will start floating in cold water. Magnesium will start floating in hot water. Why? Because gases will be produced only when magnesium is exposed to hot water. Okay.
Sir, will calcium float in hot water? It
Yeah,
will.
if it floats in cold water, because why it is floating? It's not about only the density. It's because of the gas bubbles
Yes, sir.
that are formed that stick to the surface. That is why it is floating. So this thing will happen in hot water also.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
So can you hear you so you can hear me, right?
Sorry.
So you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sir, that's it. Thank you.
Done.
Yes, sir.
Next, what happens when metals react with acid? They will produce what? Salt and hydrogen gas. So they will produce salt and hydrogen gas. This is right answer. What happens when metal reacts with acid? They will produce salt and water. Salt and hydrogen gas. This one. But do all metals react? Answer is no. Which metal will not react? Sharp. Sharp is not going to react. CuHgAgAuPt is not going to react. Is it okay? Done?
Yes, sir.
So once, can search.
Sharp लिखो ना CHAAP.
So CuHgAgAuPt.
Sharp CuHg
AgAu.
AUPT. Okay. Next. Here, activity 3.1. So collect all the metal except sodium and potassium. All metal means what? Sodium, Muggle, Zen, SnPb. So Pb, copper. Other than this, so sodium, potassium, they are going to leave this thing. If they are tarnished, then rub them, clean the sandpaper. Caution, do not take sodium and potassium as they will react vigorously with cold water. Okay, so that is why we don't react. We don't take this in. Okay, rejoin first of all. So it's already few minutes left. Rejoin it. Hard, I'm leave.